Hey, and welcome back to the Simply Fitness podcast. On today's episode, I talked to my client and good friend Brian about his fitness journey. From the beginning when he was drinking double beet gulps daily to now being shredded. There are a lot of awesome nuggets in this podcast, and I am super excited for you guys to listen to this conversation that I have with Brian. Make sure, if you like this podcast, leave a review below and subscribe for more episodes. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. I'm doing great. Good day here. Got a haircut. Just relaxing.
Nice, fresh.
Oh, thanks, man. You too.
Thank you.
Too. So, how have you been, man?
I've been good, dude. I mean, like everyone else, the past 3-4 months we're going on now have been pretty unprecedented. But yeah, I mean, from a fitness perspective, it's kind of been a silver lining. Obviously, myself working in sports. Hasn't been much of that going on, so I've had a lot of free time over the last 3-4 months. So I've been focusing a bunch of that on my fitness and on my nutrition and on my goals, and it's been going great.
Yeah, that's awesome. What have you been up to? What job-wise, what have you been?
So I was working with the Arena Football League before they went under, and then I was working with the Eagles, doing some draft analysis for them. And then I was out of work with the Eagles, and then looking for a job really right when the COVID everything hit. So it sucks because really there's not even sports to apply for jobs.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just in and out of looking for applications and looking for opportunities. But for the most part, I've just been honing my skills from a data analytics standpoint, trying to get as much of that in as possible as well with all the free time. So
yeah, that's what you gotta do, man. You gotta make the best of what you got. Learn skills, man. Market yourself.
Exactly.
So fitness wise, what have you been working on? Give me just a little brief. What have you been up to?
Yeah. So I mean, over the last, I guess, 3 months, I've really been running through a lot of the same stuff from the 30-day shred that you had sent me a couple years back.
Yeah.
It's nice because even with gyms and everything being closed, I do have my own full bench set up, so I can get some heavy lifts in still. I can hit my main lift, so I can bench, I can squat, I can deadlift. So really I've just been, doing some heavy lifting, usually 4 days a week, say usually Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I do hit some fasted cardio every morning as well. And then on the weekends, just for the most part, just stay active, not anything, scheduled, just keep moving and get some light lifts in if I find the time or the energy.
Yeah, there you go. You got the setup. You got, everyone else is trying to buy their stuff already. You already had it set up. So
yeah, it was nice.
There you go. That you're living the quarantine dream there for most people.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome, man. So I know we've worked in the past and everything like that, but let's give just a brief little history for the people that don't obviously know your story, but just go through where you started to now, because I know how much amazing progress you have made, having known you for going on almost 10 years now, probably. Yeah. So, where you started and, where you are now, just let people know.
Yeah, for sure, man. And just like you mentioned, we certainly know each other a little bit better. So, I mean, I always used to have a double gulp in my hand and had a soda.
I remember those days. Those days.
Always garbage food, and I really wasn't all that active. And honestly, just a little history myself personally with fitness is growing up, I was never really, nutritionally based. It was never something that was stressed in my family, and so a lot of times meals weren't fast food, but at the same time I wasn't getting veggies in, doing everything that I should have been doing. So I was always a bigger kid, and then even through high school, college, it was the same kind of deal. I just wasn't as focused really on my fitness or nutrition. It just wasn't a goal of mine. It wasn't something that I stressed, and so fortunately for me, we had that conversation in I believe it was March 2016. I want to say
it was probably around then. Yeah,
in Atlantic City for buddy's Paul. It was on the last pod for his 21st birthday, and we were probably having a drink, and you brought up, hey, if you want to to maybe jump back into fitness, get things right, we can set up a plan. And so that's really where it all turned around for me. I was probably 180, 190 pounds at that point. We got on a plan, and I was from there, dropped down to about 170, and then we just kept going year over year, and now I'm about steady 155, 160. So big progress for sure. And it was all really that conversation we had to change my mindset.
Yeah, it definitely, and you hear that from a lot of people. It's like you start, it wasn't really a big deal. And then just like this one moment, a lot of people can say that there's this one moment where it just clicked for them, and they're like, this is where everything kind of started. And
yep.
I'm glad I could be there to help get that started with you, because that's kind of my main purpose. Just meet people where they're at and everything like that. So having gone through that, that's a pretty substantial change, going from like you said, drinking big gulps every day, not really active at all, to where you are now. What you just said, lifting 4 times a week, doing cardio, watching what you're eating. Those are dramatically kind of different lifestyles.
For sure.
So what would you say are the 3 biggest keys for you? Like what would you say, if you had to narrow it down to 3 things, what would you say really helped you build success?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you've probably touched on a couple of these through your first couple of shows, but number one for me is just don't expect that instantaneous reward. Don't expect that instant result, because that's not going to happen. If you jump into a program and, you expect to come out with a shredded 6-pack and bulked up muscles everywhere, it's not going to happen. You're going to get disappointed, and you're probably going to fall off. So, I would say, set realistic expectations, realistic, attainable goals, like you said, actionable goals. Mm-hmm. And so that's really the biggest focus for me, is always set something realistic. Don't be disappointed if your progress doesn't come as quickly as you'd hope. And then, just really you'll see results over time. It's just a matter of staying patient and sticking with it. Number 2 for me, and I mentioned this already as well, is just always staying active. It was a big deal for me back in 2016 when we jumped on a program originally. I was about 3 years deep in an office setting job, very sedentary, go to work 8 hours, sit there, eat, come home, do the same thing 5 days a week, and really not doing anything in between to lose calories, be at a caloric deficit. So being active was a huge thing for me, and that's really another thing that changed my mindset. I, went on walks every break I got from work. I tried to keep a stationary bike even at my desk if I could. So just staying active. And then third is still allow yourself to enjoy, nutritionally from that standpoint, allow yourself to enjoy what you eat. Don't get to a point where, every single meal is, can I eat this? Can I afford to fit this in my diet? Just be aware. And then that's something that I honestly, using my Fitness Pal made a big difference there for me, just being aware of the calories that go in every day. And then, when I'm going to have a meal that I'm going to enjoy, I let myself do it.
Yeah, man. I think those are probably 3 of the biggest ones, definitely. And definitely ones that I know you follow me, and if you're listening, you probably follow me too. These are probably the 3 biggest things. And I'm glad you kind of brought those up. I think those are the 3 biggest,
Yeah.
If you're not realistic with your goals, like you said, you've been working on this for 4 years. This wasn't something that happened overnight, and it's not something that just came out of nowhere. You worked your ass off to get to where you are, and it shows. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, that you didn't look like this 6 months ago or a year ago. They think it happens in 30 days. It doesn't happen in 30 days. You can get leaner in 30 days, but you're not going to go from 40 pounds overweight to 6-pack abs,
Exactly. And I had this is a goal plan that we had drawn up back in April of 2017.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for example, one of my goals was to ultimately uncover my abs. And we went through, and I cut 10 pounds during that, I think that was a 60-day shred. And I cut, significant weight, but I'm not going to lie, it was still at the end, it wasn't as toned, wasn't as defined as I hoped to be. And that was after 2 years of doing programs with you and just staying active as much as I could. So no, it's not an overnight thing by any means, but at this point, I'm starting to see ridiculous results if I look back 4 years ago. So give it time, and progress will come.
Yeah, and that's definitely when, this is where you gotta track your progress. Like if you have pictures of yourself from 4 years ago, you can go back and be like, I used to look like this and I look like this now. Like you can really dramatically see the difference in those pictures. That's, one of the big stressors. And then, touching on some of those other points, like moving more, like those are huge. Like you said, like you worked, that 8-hour day, just moving as much as you possibly can just to get your body moving is huge.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact workouts we were doing right at the beginning, but I do remember that it was just all about just moving.
It was a lot of hit stuff. So it was a lot of
just moving as much as we possibly could.
Exactly.
Just when you get started, it's every little bit counts. That 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk is going to be better than no walk at all.
Exactly.
So I think that's something that a lot of people can really learn from is, hey, you don't have to be squatting 600 pounds to lose weight. You could be doing body weight squats. You can be doing push-ups. You can, be going for a walk, around your block, 10 times a day or something like that. And that's going to be so much better than doing absolutely nothing.
Exactly. And you just mentioned another thing that I did just want to bring up quickly. When we first started, all I had access to was a dumbbell, my body weight, and a pull-up bar. So, people think, it sucks, gyms are closed or whatever. I don't have, full weight sets. But to be honest, you can absolutely see gains. You can see progress, even if it's not absolute 100% that you may see with, full setup. But, sometimes you don't need a ton of things to see progress.
Yeah, I actually, now that you brought that up, I do now recall making those programs. And I was like, it is really surprising when somebody, I think you only had like a 40-pound dumbbell or something like that. It's a pretty heavy dumbbell. So it's pretty amazing how much progress you can still make with, little equipment that you have available to you. Perfect. So yeah, like I was just saying, like I do remember those programs now that you brought that up, that, they were just a dumbbell and a pull-up bar, and you couldn't even do pull-ups at the beginning, and so you managed to do those workouts consistently. And it was, if I remember correctly, a pretty heavy dumbbell. It wasn't like a 10-pound dumbbell. It was like a 40-pound dumbbell.
Yes, exactly.
So you were still managed to be able to, learn the movements and, progress at the rate you had with minimal equipment. And then eventually, obviously, you got, your setup over time. But I think that's what people really discount, is that they don't think that they can make great progress if they don't have a crazy setup, or if they don't know how to like if you don't know how to squat, that's okay. Learn how to squat. And over time, eventually, you'll get heavier and stuff. You can still make great progress without all that fancy equipment and everything.
Exactly. And like you always say, anything is going to be better than nothing. So
yes,
just, if it's, throwing 10, 15, 20 squats in a day, throwing some push-ups in, then that's going to be better than not doing anything at all. So
yeah, exactly. That's the way to go. And then just touching on that last point again a little bit, you talked about enjoying your food, and I definitely think that is probably what helped stick with the program long term. We've hung out a couple times since then and everything like that. I see follow you on Instagram, and I still see you going out to restaurants, tailgating football games. You could still do those things within your diet, and you still pretty much maintain where you're at, which a lot of people think you can't do that stuff. You can't, have a couple beers at a tailgate and have a burger, and some Chick-fil-A or something, whatever it may be. They think that you can't do that, but that couldn't be further from the truth.
Exactly.
If you're training and you're eating right 80% of the time, you can do some of that. You shouldn't be maybe drinking every single night, 5 or 6 beers. That's going to catch up to you real quick. Yep. Or eating Chick-fil-A every day or even every week. But, as a treat every once in a while, go for it. Go to restaurants and things like that. And if you, eventually you start kind of getting a taste for more healthier options.
Exactly.
Over time, you're like, you don't crave, like you see McDonald's every day. Now you'd probably don't even crave crave it anymore, or, whatever your food decision is. Even like you drink Big Gulp every day. I doubt you really crave soda too much at all anymore.
No, exactly. Just still certainly enjoy my diet soda, but certainly not as much as I used to. And yeah, like you're saying, like you don't want to let like the nutrition or any aspect of your own personal fitness plan. You don't want any part of that ruining your day-to-day life or making anything negative or making anything worse. You want everything to be positive. That's how you kind of stick with the routine and get into that mindset of I'm going to go out to eat, I'm going to get a nice salad and get a turkey burger. So yeah, I mean that's a big thing for me. And food, like I said, growing up was always had bad options around. So getting out of that mindset but still being able to enjoy it when I do eat it is a big thing for me.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people it's just a habit. Yeah. You had that habit of getting those Big Gulps every day, and it was just a habit that you form, and you have a habit of eating at certain places and eating certain foods and stuff like that. It's just replacing those habits with better habits.
Exactly.
It's not really taking away those stuff. There really isn't like good food or bad food. There's just maybe more food that's more nutrient dense versus calorie dense.
Right.
Like that.
Right, exactly. And yeah, you brought up 80-20, and that's still something that, we talked about years ago, and it's still something that I stick to today is and I really just try and put it on more of a total calorie basis. So try to make sure 80% or more of my calories are good calories, healthy, good proteins, good carbs, good fats. And then the other 20%, I just kind of put it in the back of my mind. So it's still something that I use daily.
Yeah, definitely. It's about, having most of your calories coming from those better sources of protein, carbs, fat, and such.
Yep.
So those are definitely some great, key points to really help build success in any fat loss goal, no matter if you had 20 or 50 pounds to lose and everything like that. So definitely thanks for bringing those up. I think those are definitely help a lot of people, build success that way and everything. But right now, are you struggling with anything? Anything that we can help you with, help you progress those goals a little bit further?
Yeah, I had a couple of things in particular that I wanted to shoot out to you. And one of them applies to people, like myself, who's been in programs and been working out a bit longer, or someone even who's just trying to start. But, even after 4 years, I find myself waking up some days just not feeling it, no interest in doing anything. So, what are some ways that you get yourself out of a fitness rut, or kind of get back in a proper mindset if you see yourself go in the wrong direction?
Gotcha. So, yeah, I can definitely say that even like recently, over quarantine, I personally was just kind of doing whatever I felt like it, everyone stopped going to the gym, obviously had equipment here, but I was just kind of playing around, enjoying it. I think one thing that really helps a lot of people is get on a program, get a plan or give yourself a challenge, like a 30-day challenge of some sort, whether it's just doing something every day, like going for walks or do 100 push-ups a day, whatever it may be, challenge yourself a little bit. I think that kind of gets you a little bit more excited about it. And even with a program, you're like, okay, like now I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. So I think really getting some type of structure in there will help kind of motivate you. There's still going to be days where you're not going to want to work out. Like that happens to every single person. I guarantee there were days where Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't want to hit the gym. And, he's the gym rat of the gym rats.
Right.
There's still days where you're like, I don't want to work out. But if you talk to almost anyone who really likes to lift and really likes to work out, that those actually tend to be the days that are the most rewarding days. The days you push through a little bit and just get in the gym or get your workout in, because, working out, it helps lift your mood. It helps you, kind of make you, even if you were just a little bit, depressed that day or just a little bit like just not feeling it, just a little bit of movement actually helps bring up your mood and helps boost it a little bit. So I would say if you're just in a rut and it has been doing, get on a program, challenge, get like a 30-day challenge or something like that. And then also if you're just not feeling it that day, just do a little bit, You know, even just, I know I have like a 5-10 minute rule, and just do an exercise for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you know, 3 sets of 10 squats or whatever you're feeling that day. Just pick an exercise. And then after that, if you're not feeling it, done. But if you are, if you feel better, do the whole, you know, do another exercise or do another superset, whatever it may be. And that kind of just helps you, you know, like we just said, like it's not that all or nothing. At least you did 5-10 minutes. You feel a little bit better about yourself. Next day, do a little bit more, or the following, you know. So
awesome. Good stuff, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that would definitely help you get out of that rut.
Yeah, awesome. And just one more quick one I had for you. And I don't know, I think I may have brought this up to you in the past, but just in terms of when you're trying to build muscle, but you're also trying to you know, kind of shred fat or at least maintain your body weight the best you can at the same time. What are some ways that you recommend doing that with, you know, the amount of protein or calories that you may need to eat to bulk up, but at the same time, you know, avoid putting on any extra body fat?
Okay, so you're talking like nutrition-wise, like with your calories and everything like that?
Yeah, or like the best way to, I guess, break up like cardio and lifts or something like that.
Okay, so let's talk about, since you brought up the nutrition first. So if you're looking to kind of gain muscle, but you're not trying to gain too much fat on there, so you want to just be like maybe 100 to 200 calories over your maintenance. So you're not in a huge surplus, but you're in a big enough surplus to help gain that muscle.
Right.
So say your maintenance is 1,800 calories, maybe eat, you know, 19 to 200 or 2,000. That'll be a good spot to not gain too much fat, and as well as still help you gain muscle. Obviously, gaining muscle takes a lot longer than losing fat can.
Right.
You know, so it's going to be, you know, a longer process and such, but it's going to help you at least when you do decide to go through your next like cutting phase or maintenance phase. You won't have to lose too much weight. You know, you might gain 5 to 10 pounds, you know, 4 to 5 of it might be muscle. So you might just have to lose that 5 additional pounds, versus if you did a 500 calorie, you might have gained a little bit more muscle, but you're definitely going to gain a little bit more fat as well. So there's always that catch-22 when you try to go into a bulk that way. So just go in a less of a bulk, you know, a less of a calorie surplus there.
Gotcha.
Obviously maintain your protein. You want, you know, at least 1 gram of protein per lean body mass. And even if you're trying to get into a bulk, you know, you can even increase that to a 1 gram per body weight.
Okay, cool.
So if you're already pretty lean, 1 gram of protein per body weight is a good place to go that wise. So that's how you do for nutrition. As for lifting, keep your same split. You know, if you're doing 4 days a week, you know, push pull or upper lower type of split, that works perfectly fine. You want to stay within like 8 to 12 is a good muscle building rep range. You know, sticking between those 3 to 5 sets. You know, you want to be making sure that you're still doing that progressive overload. So making sure that you're kind of steadily increasing the reps or the sets or the weight entirely. So to help you build up that muscle. If you're not doing overload and you're not progressing that volume up a little bit, it's going to be hard. You're not going to gain that muscle nearly as fast. Right. So,
cool.
You know, so those are kind of the ways to help gain that muscle without putting on too much fat, because you know, you probably heard before that dirty bulk, and, you know, you see people eating cheeseburgers and McDonald's every day. And, well, you know, yes, that helps you lift that calories up, you know, and maybe a little ice cream will keep you going, everything like that. But if you feel like shit, it's going to be harder to keep it going.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's
going to start. You want to feel good. Like, eating healthy makes you feel good. You know, just because you're in a surplus doesn't mean you should eat, you know, all the junk. You know, a little bit of junk to help up your calories is perfectly fine, because, you know, it can be a little harder sometimes. You can't, you know, vegetables only have so many calories. You can't go around eating 2,000 calories worth of broccoli and spinach. You'd be so over bloated that would be ridiculous, you know. But, you know, do it with better sources like rice and, avocado, put some extra olive oil on your food, stuff like that. That's going to help you feel crap ton better while also increasing your calories,
Cool. Yeah, that's where I'm at now. So I'll definitely put those into use.
Yeah. So yeah, that 8 to 12 range is going to be where you live for that. And then just progressively making sure you're increasing that weight.
Perfect.
So awesome, man. Well, it was awesome to hear your whole little story. I think a lot of people will definitely, take a lot from this because you've been there, you know what it takes. And, there was no cheat code. There was no, loading up on all these supplements and, sweat, and nothing fancy here. It was calorie deficit, working out consistently, and then as you progressed, you did more advanced stuff. Like right now, I think you said you're doing intermittent fasting and everything like that.
Yep.
You didn't start off doing that stuff. That's not for beginners. When you first started, calorie deficit, working out, moving as much as possible. And then now you're in that more advanced stage. I say you're doing it for 4 years now. You're definitely not a beginner anymore, for sure.
No, exactly. And we already did a list of 3, but the big 3, track your nutrition, track your sleep, and track your workouts. And, you're going to see progress there.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. Well, thanks for coming on. I know everyone will appreciate everything you had to say. And I hope you stay well, man.
Yeah, dude, thanks so much for having me. I'd love to come back anytime. And hopefully this helps people out. And you've changed my life forever for the better, man. So I can't thank you enough. Much love.
Man. We'll definitely have to get you back on and talk a little bit more because I know you definitely got a lot more little nuggets of advice that you've learned over the time.
Plenty to share.
Okay, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Great talking to you guys. Take care, man.